We're Arlo and Jonathan, and we're going to be talking about...
Yes, that's my father.
And I'm the father of this good-looking boy.
I bet.
We're going to be talking about various topics of natural science, and to put it more broadly, we will be talking about the past,
Present and future.
the present, and future.
So we could just say life talks, or I have an idea. We're going to be talking about the past life, like, past moments in human history, past life mostly, like dinosaurs, sharks, etc. And stuff in the present, like what's happening, and stuff for the future, dangers, etc., future life, aliens, blah, blah, blah. Let us know in the comments what name should be for this channel.
Yeah, we're trying to think of a name, haven't come up with it yet, and we do welcome comments for things like that, as well as topics that we might discuss in future episodes.
Yes, and I apologize if you can't see us one of us now, or
I think they can see us.
yeah, I know, or it cuts to that's because memory. I have no idea how much memory is in here.
Yeah, that's all going to be okay. We
Maybe
don't,
don't
have to worry about that
warning.
right now. But, okay, so the topics that we will be addressing in these early episodes.
What did it say?
Yeah, well, there are two or three. What is life? How does evolution work? How did life begin?
Well, let's not worry about that right now.
Well, don't worry about that. Today, we'll get started with this question of life, the distinction between life and non-life. What is it that makes living stuff different from regular matter?
Well, honestly, when you think of life as something that has a will and it moves around and then it does stuff and the whole nature of the universe is messy, so life cleans it up and then eats berries or meat and this. An archaean bacterium, something at the very beginning of life, something that just came into the world, the first life form that had no purpose, no will, no consciousness. It didn't have any brain. It was an empty organism that went around not knowing what to do and eating things. That's life, but life is more than that. Basic fungi, plant, and animal life are made of cells. Well, maybe not plant life. Plant life is made partly from protists, pre-plants that lived millions of years ago, but we'll get to that in episode 52 or something. And basically, cells have no consciousness, no will, and no purpose. Its to-do list is exist, be, and fight entropy. If you don't know what that is, look it up. I'm not insisting you do, of course, but let's not waste our time because the thing might run out in seconds.
So it's interesting. You say that one of the things that something that's alive does is fight entropy.
Yes, because it fights the very question of the epic force that battles the universe. We all fight it together with our own bodies, and we're not even doing it.
And that epic fight is against entropy.
Yes, it's like a fight of relaxation. We don't know we're doing it, but we do. We are. Well, we technically do know because I've just speculated. I shall be in the newspaper. Okay, let's not waste our time. And when you think of an organism, there's okay, imagine like a solid black, like a dark blue, beautiful background, and like a single, like a light blue circle with tiny little dark blue spots in it. And it has little tiny lines sticking out of it, and it has one strange thing sticking from behind it called the flagellum. Some different types of cells do different things, and that's what a cell is. A cell is basically an entity that has no consciousness, no will, and no purpose.
Right, so the cell, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have a question. The cell is alive, yeah?
But it doesn't think anything, it just does stuff.
I mean, we know, for example, the animal, like a lizard, is alive, and its skin, its flesh, its muscles are alive, and the cells in the muscle are alive.
But the stuff inside the cells that works is not alive.
Okay. On the inside of the cell, that stuff, the organelles, the protoplasm, all that goo, that's not alive?
But here's my question. How is a cell alive when everything inside the cell in the wall is not alive?
Excellent question.
But there is an answer we have. It's called DNA, and yes, it's an alphabet that keeps it makes you, and it keeps the cell alive. It's placed inside the nucleus, which has a I'm gonna call it a neuronucleus, but I have no idea what it's actually called. Nanonucleus or something?
A nucleus.
No, it's like inside a nucleus, and it stores a bunch of ribosomes that then eject RNA into the outer spaces, and then the RNA turns into DNA, and then the DNA goes inside, and it's not really that, it's just more complex. And technically, it's the nucleus is the brain, and that's how cells move around and actually live. They have
there's some stuff in between that, in between the DNA and the moving around. And so, as I understand it, does this sound right? The DNA opens up to the little fragments of nutrients that have been passed into the cell, little scraps of protein. It can identify them and sort of lock onto them and cause something's happen, and it transforms one protein into another kind of protein.
Yeah, like things like start other reactions and start other reactions. It's very complicated. Mm-hmm. What's even more complicated is viruses. Viruses are extreme. There are more viruses on Earth than the mass of the Eiffel Tower.
Well, say why you thought of mentioning the virus right now.
Well, I've thought of it from, we don't know if viruses are living or dead, but we do have a theory. Viruses don't care what we think of them. Let's leave that out for now. But viruses, they have RNA in them, and some viruses just wander around being life, just being a question, just being a mere thing that exists only in its exact moment, that we don't know if it is alive or dead or both, technically. And some viruses help us. Some viruses are sort of bacteriums that like help us with our digestion, fight off things. Some white blood cells even use viruses as some white blood cells sometimes use dead virus assistants as to scare off the other viruses, because they're like, oh no, our leader is dead. We shall evacuate the body. This infection is not worth anything.
Some people have a set of criteria for what constitutes life, and among those criteria is this notion of reproduction. That the thing makes copies of itself. That it can propagate its own kind. Now, as I understand it, the virus can't do that. It sort of has to invade other cells and get them to do its dirty work.
Yes.
And so in that sense, it's not fulfilling one of the definitions of life. And so therefore we have this question of whether or not it's actually even alive.
Oh, speaking of questions of actually it's alive, something springs to mind here. A long time ago, ancestors of ourselves, which have derpy eyes and just trying to make it funny, and strange mouths, was their slobbering, and then the original cells, mitochondria, went with them. It went into them, and then they traded for its DNA. Its species was rapidly depleting because the DNA was not surviving. So they went all of the remaining mitochondria, except for maybe one that didn't know how to do anything because it's not really alive, and it just popped out of existence. Went into every single cell that was successful enough of like developing some organs. It already has the nucleus and the flagellum, not the flagellum. And then the mitochondria helped a lot with reproduction, and like it traded its own life for the survival of their DNA. So it transformed their DNA into the DNA of the cell so it can survive inside the cell. Sort of like donating an organ, except it's a lot more important than you can imagine. And then the mitochondria turn into micro machine robots that they're still like look adorable. And they get parts and then they spit them out and.
Well, let me see if I've got this straight. So the mitochondria, which are well known as one of the bigger organelles inside of most cells. Those things started out their existence as they were their own little beastie, they were a cell in and of themselves, and they, for some reason, adapted by making a home inside some bigger cell. And so they sort of gave up all that freedom and their own life, is the way you put it, so that their DNA could survive, but now as part of other cells.
That's actually the reason why you exist. Watching this. Watching me tell you that you would not exist if this hadn't happened. And the DNA got transformed and this thing is still sort of alive. That's the good thing. It's sort of alive. If it was completely dead, then it wouldn't have an effect anymore. It's sort of alive. It's kind of like a robot. It's sort of alive in the form of a robot, like having big inflations on the cell, reactions that start other reactions, and it makes proteins, complex micro machines, things like that. And it really helps out with life. So basically, life is something that exists at that exact moment and wanders around just wondering what to do, wondering its purpose and its speciality. And what we really wonder is how evolution works, how the process that gets cells into very evolved cells into tiny things, fish things, and like tiny little eels. And then that turns into like normal fish, which turns into tic-tacs, which turns into prehistoric amphibians, which turns to reptiles, mammal-like reptiles, mammals, and so on and so on.
Yeah, so that's going to be a question for a future episode.
Yes,
and we'll examine the mechanisms of evolution.
Like next episode. So you're lucky to be here, and you're lucky to be a member of life on the tree of life. Literally hanging from a branch on the tree of life, your feet are touching the branch where roundworms exist. I'm going to leave it with that, friend.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Next time you miss your train, or accidentally give yourself a cut on the knee, then don't worry, it's all gonna heal up soon because you exist, and it's the very nature of you. See you later, alligator, prehistoric alligator, sarcosuchus, whatever. See you next episode where we shall talk about evolution. We're ready to stop the episode. Bye!